going with, okay, as and when we are going with any activity, it would give us the impulses. If something is stored in our brain, then we would give that as an output. Right. Same is the case with your software applications or whatever may be the application that is developed, whichever accepts some data and retrieves the same data at some point of time. Like you have your Gmail account, your Yahoo, whatever the emails that you have, or whatever the social networking sites that you have. So every time you log in, only why are you able to see only your details? Because your details are stored in a particular location. Now, as and when you are logging into that particular system using the credentials that you have given, so what it does, it fires a query to the backend, a backend system called as a database, and it retrieves the information. If you provided your details, everything invalid, then it fires the same valid, it takes the same details, the details that you have provided, and it fires onto your database, and the appropriate data corresponding to that particular credentials is being retrieved. All right. So every application, right? So every application. Wait. What happened here? Okay, just give me a minute, please. Right. So every application that is being developed, right, there will be a backend system which is nothing but our database. A database is a particular software which is used to collect the data. Any data that is being stored or any data that is being given by the user, which needs to be retrieved or which needs to be saved in a particular location, all this particular data will get stored into a database. So these databases are the backbones to any web applications. So what do I mean by web applications? Applications which can be accessed online are nothing but your web applications. Banking applications are web applications. All your social networking sites are your web applications. Right? So, and moreover, the same database would be also pointing to your mobile applications, mobile apps. Not the native apps, but the mobile applications. So when I say mobile applications, you have the same, apps like MACD, right? So you have to have your user ID and password in order to place a particular order, or you may have the same internet banking mobile applications that can be installed in your mobiles. Even those particular applications will also make use of the user IDs and passwords, which are retrieved again from the database. Though they are installed in your device, but they get communicated to the database via web. Right? Without internet, you cannot log in into any of your app, right? So the same is the case here. Right. So all the web applications or the mobile applications, they get interacted with the database. The database is sitting at some other place, not at your end. Even though it is sitting some other place, they get communicated with the help of internet and they retrieve the data. All right. So far, yes, till yesterday, what we have seen the testing area that can be initiated on a web application. The types of testing that we can do or the functionality that can be tested on a web application is seen till yesterday. Now what are we going to do? From today we will be concentrating on this particular piece called as database. Right. From today we will be concentrating on this particular piece called as our database. So what is a database here? Right, let me write it. So what is a database? Database is nothing but a software which is used to collect the data. Right, yeah. Collect the data. Database is a particular software which is used to collect the collect the data, and the data that this particular database collects will be organized. It will be organized into tables. They are segregated into tables. Right. Data is not directly loaded into that particular database as the way that you give, but they are segregated into the tables. They are classified. The way the data is organized is in the form of tables. What do I mean by this? Now, let's take the functionality of a banking application. If I take the functionality of a banking application, what do the banking sector contains? Banking sector contains branches first, right? Bank, branches, right? Customers, employees, transactions, payments, loans, etc., etc., etc. So what are all these? These are nothing but the subject areas for this particular banking application, right? These are the subject areas of the banking application. So what kind of information? Now whenever you have any particular software that needs to be getting developed, all right, instead of storing all the data in one place, divide them into the subject areas and store the relevant data into that particular subject area. Okay. Now a particular bank. So this, let's say I'm taking the Bank of America. All right. So when I say bank, I'll be having an ID created for it. All right. Let's say BOA is the ID. Right. The name of this particular bank is Bank of America. All right. The headquarters is in DC. Let's say this one. The Bank of America has got multiple branches, right? It has got branches all over US. So what does it do? The branches information, all the branches information is going to be maintained within your branches table, the different branches table. Let's say the first branch is in DC. You'll be having a location name within DC. Within DC, you may have the second branch also, right? So DC and whatever the location, right? Then let's take Virginia, VA. Within Virginia, you may have in different locations, like let's say Herndon, right? Within Virginia, you have it in Reston. Likewise. So what are you trying to do here? The same bank which has got branches is organized in a branches table. Likewise, the customer. Customer may belong to different branches, but all are customers for a particular bank. Each and every customer is identified by a customer ID, right? You have your own account number. Your account number will not be same as my account number, right? Likewise, every customer is going to get created, right? And they are organized in your customers table. This is another subject area. Now employees is another subject area. In order to serve the customers, Bank of America has to have its own employees. So that means they have to maintain the database table that is corresponding to store the information for the employees. Likewise, all the transactions that is done by the customers, all the information needs to be segregated into your transaction tables, right? Payments, whatever the payments that are being posted by the customer has to be segregated into your payments table. Loans, the loans that is being operated by the bank, the loans that is being availed by the customers, the loans that is being closed or that is being inoperative, everything, every area of that, every functional area of that particular subject is being stored in within your loans database, right? So what happens here? The data that needs to be organized for a particular application is going to be classified based on the subject areas. So once you know the subject area, you can classify the corresponding areas. On classifying it, you are going to organize in the form of a tabular format, and this is nothing but called as your table. The data is organized in a table in the form of rows and columns, which is nothing but forming a table. The data is organized in the tables. How is the data organized within the tables? It is organized in the form of rows and columns. Okay. Now, so how is the data organized? Data is organized in the form of rows and columns. Right. Now, why I need to mention the data in the form of rows and columns? What does the column give me? What does the row give me? What kind of information that I get from the columns? What kind of information that I get from the rows? For example, if I say 3484, what is the meaning of that particular 3484? It's only the employee ID? Can't it be an amount? Can't it be an address, a postal code? Yeah. So you don't have any definite value or any definite relationship to this particular data. Right? Whatever the data that you have got, that you are seeing on the screen, it has got no information. Right? It's just a data without an information. This is just a data without information. When it becomes an information, when I give a header for this, the header saying that EMP ID. So what is 3484 now? This is an employee ID. So when I have a header, I'll be able to get the information out of that particular data. Likewise, now does this have any meaning now? 3484 Durga Satish 8500. Do we have any meaning for this particular data? No. No. But if I give this, if I say ename, if I say salary, now do I have any meaning for this? Right? Now what are these? These headers are nothing but called as your columns. All the headers are nothing but called as your columns. And all the headers together is called as your rows. Individually, like say employee ID is a column, column 1. Employee name is a column 2. Salary is a column 3 for me. This entire data 3484 Durga Satish 8500, this becomes my right. Likewise, if I have another data 3485, right, Praveen, let's say 5000, this becomes my row 2. Make sense? So the data within a table is organized in the form of rows and columns. The very first row that you see, right, the very first row, this is nothing but called as your header, right, which will be having information of columns. So this would be your column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. This would be your row 1, row 2, row 3. Very simple. It's just like your Excel documentation. You have seen your Excel, right? Everyone are working on Excel, right? Sorry. Still preparing. Yeah, it's opening up. Just give me a moment. All right. So what is this? This is a column A, column B, right? Column B, column C, column D. You have n number of columns. The entire, all the data, if I give any data in each and every cell, all the cells in together is treated as your row. For example, EMPID, ename, right, job and salary, right, EMPID 3484, Durga, right, QMan, let's say 8500, 3485, Satish, QA lead, right, let's say 6500. Now this is the data, this is my entire tabular data or tabular data, whatever the way that you pronounce. Right? Now 3484 is nothing but your employee ID. Durga is a name of the employee. QMan, it's a designation, the job. Right? 8500, it's a value called as salary. Now without the headers, if you don't see these particular headers, this data doesn't have any meaning. Right? With the headers, you got the meaning. Now here, this becomes column 1. Right? Employee ID column. What are the values that you see within employee ID column? What are the values that you see? I see 3484, 3485. I see 2 values within the column 1. Likewise, I see 2 values within column 2, 2 values within column 3, and 2 values within column 4. Each and every column is represented with a name. Employee ID is column 1. This is my column 2. This is my column 3. This is my column 4. Now this entire 3484 Durga QMan and salary is nothing but my row 1. This is my row 2. This is how your database table is going to store your data. The data, whatever the data that is being captured from any of your application will be stored in the appropriate tables in the form of rows and columns. Okay, in the form of rows and columns. Now altogether, how many records I do have within this particular table? Altogether, how many records I have? I have only 2 records. When I say records, it means rows. Records or rows, both are one and the same. Okay, clear? Right, so the columns are said to be as attributes. These are said as attributes. Whatever the columns that we see within a table, these are said to be as attributes. Okay, now the very basic questions. Why the data has to be organized in the database? Why not a file system would do the need? Why we specifically require a database to be in place? Why not a file system? Even Excel is one of your file system, right? Why can't I maintain the data within this particular file? Why do I want to have a database installed? The reasons why we will not go with the file system is security, the very first thing. Right? If I have a file, the file can be easily corrupted. The file can be easily been destroyed by some other unauthorized users. Right? I don't have any security within this particular file.
It can be altered too.
It can be altered. Yeah. Manipulation is very easy within the file, and you will not be able to know who has done the alteration or who has deleted it and everything. Right? I don't have enough security if I go with the file system. Then retrieval of data. Retrieval of data is very difficult here. Why? Now if I organize the entire data here, like say branch, okay, let me give you that. Like let's say if I had to store the entire bank records, let's say bank ID, bank name, right, branch, right, location, address, employees ID, customer ID, employee name, customer name, right, employee contact number, and so on. If I try to maintain all these particular details, right, I have to use a single file in order to maintain all these particular details, or I have to segregate these particular data into different spreadsheets. Like one spreadsheet is for banks, one spreadsheet is for your branch details, one spreadsheet is for your employees, another spreadsheet is for your customers. Now I have to segregate them into different sheets. Now when I have the data segregated into different sheets or separated into different sheets, if I have to retrieve a particular customer detail to the branch that he belongs to and the employee who has registered him, then what do I have to do? I have to go manually and fetch that particular record from the customer sheet. I have to go manually and fetch that particular record from your employee sheet. I have to go manually and fetch that particular record from your branch sheet. So when I have data organized in multiple sheets, the retrieval of data is very difficult, right? It's all your manual activity that you have to do. It's same thing like your book. Okay, it's similar to your book. Now in your book you will be having the information segregated in the form of chapters, right? You'll be having the information segregated in the form of chapters. Chapter A may have dependency on chapter B, and chapter B may have dependency on chapter C. Right. So if you want to have that particular dependency established, then you have to go manually on chapter A. Again, you have to go on chapter B and C. Right. So analyzation is difficult unless you go into all the chapters, unless you have information from all these particular chapters. Right. Same is the case with your file system. You cannot go or you cannot analyze the data when you have the data segregated into a different files. If you have the data segregated in different files, then the analyzation over that particular data is very difficult. Right. So these are the main things. First one is security. Another one, redundant information, redundancy. This is more important thing. So what do I mean by redundancy? Redundancy is nothing but my duplication of data. Duplication of data. Now here, if I try to write the same record again and again, am I getting a prompt saying that this data is already existing within that particular table? Am I getting a prompt? See, already 3484 Durga QMan 8500 is already existing within that particular table. Now if I am trying to give this particular data again, is it prompting me? No, it's not. Right. So that means there is a high possibility that we will be recording the duplicate information if I go into this, if I go with file system as my database. Right. Data is not uniquely presented within a file system. Right. It's not uniquely identified. See here. This is uniquely identified. 3484 Durga QMan and 3485. They are distinct values. They are not redundant data. Right. Now this 3484 Durga and QMan, this one, they are duplicate data. Alright, 3484. If I say Durga Satish, is this a redundant data or normal data?
It's a redundant duplicate.
It's not a redundant data.
Employee ID is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about employee ID in spec. I'm talking about all the columns in specific. If I see this, yeah, I did not talk about normalization also. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now here, if I see this particular record and if I see this particular record, is the entire data same? So this is not duplication. But the point is, it is already there. This ID is already been assigned to a particular person called Durga. Right. So there is again a possibility that if you assign the same ID to another resource, this particular file system is not prompting you. Like this ID is already in use, it's not prompting you. Right. So again, this is the biggest disadvantage. So in this regards, or in this particular case, what will happen? The same employee ID can be assigned to two different resources, which is false, which should not happen at any point of time. You having an account number, even I have the account number, if both the account numbers are same, then what happens? Either you can withdraw more money from my account or I can withdraw more money from your account. Right, that is nowhere possible. It should not happen anywhere. So the file system is not giving you that kind of information. Like whenever you're storing with the redundant data, whenever you're trying to relate the data uniquely, it is not prompting the user. Okay. Now one more thing. Let's say I have these as my columns. E-name, job, salary, department number, D-name, location. Okay. Grade. Then HR ID, HR name, MGR ID, MGR name. Now let's say I have these as my columns. I say these as my columns, okay? Employee ID, e-name, job, salary, alright, department number, D-name, location, grade, HR ID, HR name, manager ID, and manager name. Okay, this is what I have. I'm trying to record some records for you. I'm trying to play some records. Let's say these are the 3 records for me. Okay, now if you see this, the data, alright, so the first record is of Durga, the second record is of Satish, and the third record is of Kaushik. I have 3 different records. Okay, now see this particular data. What is the data that is repetitive in nature here? What is the data that you see in repetitive in nature?
Shop, department, location, department name, locations, hire, ID, ID, hire, I name,
HR ID, HR name, I mean human resource ID and human resource name. Okay, now if you see here, I have the department number repeating, I have the D name repeating, I have the location repeating. All these 3 segments, all these 3 columns are repetitive in nature. Right. Likewise, I see this particular information getting repeated. Right. So, if you maintain the data in the form of file system, most of your data will be repetitive in nature. They will not be in a normalized manner. When I say normalized manner, you'll see most of the columns having duplicate data getting implemented for each and every row that is getting included within a table. Okay, so what the database has done, database has implemented a rule called as your normalization, which would classify these particular records according to their requirement. Let's say here, so what am I going to do here? I'm going to create a table with alright, likewise the HR ID, the grade manager ID. So this would be my table called as my employee table. Employee table will be having the information that is corresponding to employees. Who is the employee? What is his ID? What is his designation? What is his salary? To which department he is working with? To which manager he is being reported to? Who is his corresponding HR contact person? Okay. Likewise, in order to know about this particular department number 10, what would I do? I create another table called as department. Right. Within this, I'll be having the information, D name and location. So where I'll place only a single record over there. I need not to repeat this particular quality analyst and Herndon multiple times within this particular employee table because I passed a reference. This is, and the reference is only department number. Department number is the column that is acting as a reference between these 2 tables. So what am I going to do? I am normalizing this particular entire denormalized table. Why? How am I getting normalized? By breaking the table into 2 and segregating the repetitive data into a unique set of data. So this becomes my unique set of data. If you see here, this entire data got repeated for the 3 employees. If at all I have 1000 employees, this data will get repeated for all those 1000 employees who are working in the department number 10, and that too quality analyst. So what I have done, this particular data is being segregated into 2 different tables, and just maintaining a reference columns between both the tables, you will be able to retrieve the data. Right. So what do I mean by reference? Just making a connectivity between these 2 tables, employee table and the department table. I have established a connection. So how is the connection established? The connection is established with this particular column called as department number. Right. This is how your data is going to get organized within your database table. This is how your data is going to get organized within your database table. Okay. So what are we going to learn as part of our database classes? First, we'll be working on the tables. We'll understand how the data is being seen within a database table, how we can see the data within the database table. What are the things or how to access the data from a table? What are the things that we need to know about a particular table? How do I see the data within a particular table? And most importantly, we will be learning a language called as SQL, which is nothing but structured query language. We'll be learning this particular language. So why is this particular language important? With this particular language, we will be able to retrieve the necessary information from the tables of a database. Okay, now what are we going to do? Here we are going to work on Oracle. Oracle is a database. Likewise, you have SQL Server. SQL Server is another database. You have Teradata. This is another database. You have MySQL. This is another database. Okay, so you have n different varieties of databases. But the common language for all these particular databases is SQL. If you know the SQL language, you can work on any of these particular database. There will be just a small change in the syntax and in small functions. Apart from that, the way you write the queries is always the same in all the databases. Okay, so this is what we are going to learn as part of our database classes. Okay, this is what we are going to learn as part of our database classes. You do not have such kind of a language on your file system. So always whenever you compare a normal file system to a database application, you always see that there is a drawback of your file system. Right. There is a drawback of your file system. Now what are we going to do with the SQL language? Now how is this particular SQL language is going to help us? SQL is going to help us. It will help us in retrieving the data. I mean capturing the data from the tables. It will be helping us in loading the data into the tables. You can insert the data into the tables. You can manipulate the data. That means you can change the data within the tables. Okay, and what else? You can create the tables, right? You can make the changes to the tables also. Not only to the data, you can also make changes to the tables, and you can also give some actions, right? So there are multiple things that we can do with the SQL language. Okay, with the structured query language, we can go with multiple activities. Is that okay? IVM. I thought of showing you the database. Sorry. You connected to the system? Just give me a minute. I'll show you a database. Did you connect to this global meeting? If not, just connect to that.
Global meeting?
Yeah. I guess my file got corrupted also. Oh no. My file got corrupted. Just give me a minute, guys. Have you connected? If not, please connect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done, right? So what am I going to do is I'm gonna. Oh, you are as well. Download it. You have got a download request, right? Yeah. Download it. Run it. Once you're done, just let me know.
Security scans, not any secret. Okay.
You're done, right?
Maybe we started.
Yeah. Okay.
So show my screen.
Yeah, show your screen. And there you'll be seeing a particular. Yes, perfect. Okay, you can make me as a presenter. Select my name. Not presenter, okay. You have to give me the credentials. Let me see. One sec. Okay, cool. Now, I'll just operate your system, okay? Right. So here, I'm just opening a Toad. Toad is an editor of your database. Okay, you have a SQL developer, likewise you have a Toad. So Toad or SQL developer both are your editor tools of your database. Now before I start with this, okay, let me show you the screen. Oh, everyone can see the screen, right? All right, perfect. Now before I start with the database, first what we have to know is how do we ensure that we have the database installed successfully in our machine. That is what is much required. Whoever is installing the database in their machine, you need to have a check done to ensure whether the database is installed properly or not. So just open the command, run command, and you will be seen with this particular command prompt. Once you say cmd within your run command, you'll be seen with cmd.exe opening up. So here just give SQL plus, and if it is giving you the information about the Oracle, see here SQL plus release 10.2.0.1, and you see Oracle. This means that there is a successful installation of Oracle in your machine. Right. So run command, and to show you again. Don't close it. Start. From the start, you'll see a run command, or if you don't see that, say Windows R. Use both your keys, Windows key as well as R button together.
I see the run command. This one. Okay.
Run and give cmd within that. Right.
Already there.
Then open it. Then say SQL plus SQL plus. And once you see this information, It means that your Oracle is installed. Now the things, Scott is your username and Tiger is your password. And if you use the correct credentials like Scott and Tiger correctly, then it will make you to log in into that particular database called as Oracle. Once you're successfully authenticated, you would be seeing this particular prompt, SQL as the prompt here.
The password is small tiger.
Yes, small tiger. Okay, so you're in your case within your VM, how did you? In Windows 8 as well, you can install the database, right? I have sent the link, right? So within, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. Right, within your Windows 8 machine also, you can have your database installed, the Oracle installed. Right, once you install the Oracle, follow the same process. With Windows R, go to your run command, see whether you are able to execute those commands or not. Okay, fine. Don't go with the installation of 12c. The version that I have given is 11G. Go with it. 12c is a bit confusing one. Please don't go with it. Just download 11G, Oracle 11G, and that is what the video is all about. Okay. Now, here I'm just into this particular editor. Editor is an area where you can get communicated. You have closed the connections, right? Give it. Earlier you saw the connections. Score. This is already saved. You don't have to do anything else. Just click connect. You'll be in this particular page. Okay. Now, editor is something which is going to act on your database, and this will help you in a in firing the queries on a database and to retrieve the data in more appropriate manner. See here, I can even fire the queries, or even I can execute the queries using my command prompt. But what happens here is, if I write the query in this way, select star from EMP, don't forget about what I'm writing. If I'm trying to access the data from this particular EMP table, you see the data appearing in a different format. I really don't like this, right? I really don't know what is the column under which the data is for, right? See here, EMP number, ename, job, MGR, high date, salary, commission, and department number. So these are all the columns, and you see the data. Is the data well organized and well displayed within this command prompt? It is not, right? So if a first time user, and if at all I have around 10,000 records within this particular table, I see the same layout appearing throughout my command prompt, which will not give a eye-catchy things when working with these particular command prompts. And that is why you are that is why there are many tools that have been developed which are acting as an editor for your databases. Toad is one such editor which will help us, right, in order to execute the queries on a database. Okay, now I'm just executing few of the queries to show you how the data would look like. Forget about the commands that I'm writing now. Now you see the data. Compare the same data here to your command prompt. What happened, man? All right. So this output to this output. Yeah. What is happening here? You're doing any activity over there? No, right?
No. Sorry.
Because I see two mouse moving up. Just open it from your end. Just maximize it. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
You have controls.
No, you have controls. You can do that. Over here. Just say this one. Yeah. What is happening? General these videos. Chat. So I'm hitting your laptop. Okay, I have to close it. Let me close this. Just give me a minute, guys. We have to close this session. And, we'll reopen the code again. Right. Why am I not able to enter the data? Let me try from there. Again, I'm not able to enter. What is happening? Anonymous block close. So, why is this? Something going wrong. Is any of your key pressed long press? There is any long press on your keys? Just check it out.
No.
This is oh. Yeah, now it should be fine. Yeah. So select star from EMP. I'm executing this part of the query. Okay. Now I see what I'm trying to do with this part of the query is I'm trying to access the data that is present within this particular table. I'll give you a detailed explanation of how to write this particular query. But what I wanted to show you is if you make use of your command prompt and make use of your database, I mean the editor, you would see the data getting represented in a different format, right? The earlier format that we have seen is not an eye-catchy thing, right? If at all you have multiple columns over there, like we all have, I mean within this particular table we have only 8 columns. Now these 8 columns are not properly displayed when you are talking about in a command prompt, right? So if I have around 20 columns within a table, then again the data will not be properly displayed, right? And to overcome all these things, your editors has come into picture, and within this particular editors you will be able to query out the database and retrieve the same results. In order to query out the database, what you need to do? you need to connect to that particular database. All right. You need to connect this particular database. Cart is your database here. SH is one of your database. Source is one of your database. Target is one of your database. I guess control key is over there. Control is selected. Some of your control keys are selected. Control key may be a hard press one. Now it's okay. Fine. Right. So all these are nothing but your databases. Right. So first we will be working on this particular database called as CORD, and we'll start our learning with this particular database. Okay. We'll start our learning with this particular database. We'll try to understand what different kinds of tables we have within that particular database, how to query out, what do I mean by select, what do I mean by this asterisk, what do I mean by from, what do I mean by EMP. Alright, this would be our initial learning. This would be our first learning. This would be our first learning. What do I mean by select star from EMP? This is what everyone needs to know, and this would be our first learning. Now, what do I mean by select? Select says that what are you going to see in the output? This is what select means. Alright. So what are you selecting from a particular table? Alright. When you say select, then you have to specify the necessary identifiers, the necessary columns that you want to see in the output. Now let's say here, you see when I say select star from EMP, what do I see here? I see EMP number, e-name, job, MGR, hire date, salary, commission and department number being displayed. Right. So what is EMP number here? EMP number is my column. E-name is another column. Job is another column. MGR is another column. Hire date, salary, commission, department number. All these are the columns for me. Now if I need to display it with only few columns, so what would I say? How will I write my query? I'll write the query as select EMP number, comma, e-name, comma, job, comma, salary from EMP. When I execute this part of the query, see the output. I am displayed with only those columns that I have mentioned between select and from. These are the columns that I have mentioned. Now from the two outputs, from both the outputs, what did you understand? What does the asterisk denotes? Asterisk denotes, what is happening? Right, asterisk denotes all the columns in the table. When I say asterisk, I'll pull out all the columns in the table. Now if I am required with only few columns from that particular table, then what would I do? I would give only the necessary columns that I am required with. I did not go till that level. We'll go in. Okay. So all the columns that are necessary within that particular table, I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give only those particular columns. Now this kind of queries, whenever you go with asterisk, this kind of queries are called as your selection queries. You're selecting. Right, these are your selection queries. And this, what happened?
automatic now.
No, there is some problem in your machine. Right, so this is called as your projection. These kind of queries are called as your projection queries. Whenever you are trying to retrieve only few columns out of a particular table, then these queries are called as your projection queries. Whenever you are trying to retrieve all the columns from a particular table, right, then they are called as your selection queries. Alright, so this is how. Okay, now I can write the query everything in capital letters, or I can write the query everything in small letters. My language syntax is not a case sensitive. The what is this?
Not case sensitive.
Query language is not case sensitive. Right, but the data within the Oracle is case sensitive. The data within the Oracle is case sensitive. So what do I mean by that? You see the data, right? You see Durga appearing in this manner. Your
caps on.
My caps on, my caps off. Even then it is giving me the same way. Okay. Durga, I see the data Durga being displayed within the table in this manner. Right. This Durga is not equal to this Durga. Both are not same. Why? The earlier Durga has got only the initial letter in the capital letters, but the next Durga, he has got everything in capital letters. Okay. Remember this point. Oracle data is case sensitive. Not the way, not with the query language. Language, either you can give in upper cases or either you can go with the lower cases. It doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. But whenever you're trying to access the data within that particular table, then it is a case sensitive. Okay, making sense? So what are the things that we have learned so far today? When I say select star from EMP, then it means that it's a selection query. And when I say asterisk, it means that I'm trying to retrieve all the columns information from that particular table. Alright. Instead of asterisk, if I mention only the desired column names, then that kind of queries are nothing but called as your projection queries. And the output would be displayed accordingly. Whatever the column names that you have mentioned within select and from. Okay, only those particular column names would, or those particular columns and its related information would be displayed in your output. This pane is nothing but called as your output. This is your output pane. Okay, right? A result pane or output pane or result grid, whatever you wanted to say. Okay, now the queries is not a case sensitive. The way you write the query is not at all a case sensitive, but the data that is being represented within the tables is a case sensitive. Alright, what do I mean by select? Select will denote me that what am I going to select? What am I going to select from this particular table? From will always specify from which particular table I'm going to specify, I'm going to retrieve the data from is used for that. Okay, so this entire query says in this way, select. What do I need to select? It's if it says asterisk, okay, I have to select every column from the given table name. This is nothing but your table name. EMP is nothing but your table name in which the entire employee information is being stored.
So EMP, that's how they.
Yeah, that is how they have given the naming convention of that particular table. Now, if I write the query in this way, select star from employee. If I write the query in this way, if I execute this part of the query, I'll be seen with an error message saying the table or view does not exist. Because the table name is specified as EMP, then we have to go with the name. It's just like our name. Alright, if our name is appearing as DURGA, then we have to go with only DURGA. Right, you cannot go with some other name, some other spelling. Right, that is how it is. So tables are nothing but your identifiers. Even I can write the query in a small, okay, which I already discussed. Right, even this will get executed. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. So any questions so far? Okay, if there is no asterisk, then it will query. So what do I mean by no asterisk? So can I write the query in this way? Select from table. This would throw me an error message saying that missing expression. Something is missing between select and from. What is it missing? You have not provided with the necessary information that needs to be retrieved from that particular table. What do I mean by necessary information? What are the columns that you want to retrieve from that particular table is missing over there. Okay, so definitely from select and between select and from, you have to either go with asterisk or the necessary columns that you wanted to retrieve. Now here if I say EMP number, right, EMP number, e-name, job, salary, MGR, high date, commission, department number. Now if I okay, I gave a wrong. Sorry. And something is wrong with you. I really don't know whether it is wrong from my end or your end. I'm not able to operate your machine. So date, commission, department number. Now if I execute this part of the query, again I'm going to get all those particular columns as my output. Even this would be a selection because I'm trying to retrieve all the columns from that particular table. I'm not omitting any of the columns. Right. Now whatever the way that I have given within that particular select statement, the same way I will be seeing my output. So what do I mean by this? Now if you see this, the above query and below query, if you add in between, what do I mean by in between? See the display. The way I have given the column names within my query, output is displayed accordingly, right? So you will be spending less time if you add, okay, asterisk in between, okay. If you want to, I mean, you mean to say that you want to give an asterisk to retrieve all the columns information. Yes, that is one way, but if you do not require all the columns, then definitely you have to go with your column names, right? If you require all the column names, then you have to go with asterisk. But if at all you are not required to be displayed with all the column names, then you have to give that particular necessary information that you are required with, not with the asterisk. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll end up today and we'll catch up the things tomorrow, learning more of these particular SQL queries. Okay, so I'll go with the select statements again, then we'll go in depth the details slow by slow manner. Okay, and please install the Oracle database in your machines without fail. That is much more required. Okay, and if at all you're facing any issues, then oh, who is this? Okay, if at all you're facing any issues, just let me know. I'd be guiding you accordingly. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for me for today? And moreover, are you available tomorrow? Are you making any plans for your long weekend or so? Everyone. Hello. No answer from anyone. Everyone is available tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
No plans for your long weekends or so.
No money for weekend.
Okay, cool. So let's meet tomorrow. Let's learn more things about our databases.
How do you process the cost?
I'll show you.
Suspend, right?
Select EMP number. Is that I'm retrieving only EMP number, e-name from employee? Yeah, you're retrieving only those two columns from that particular table, but ensure that your e-name and from has got a space. Otherwise, that would be treated as one particular word and the query would give an error. Okay. So every column needs to be separated by a comma. Okay, and between select and from you have to have your spaces also. Select space column name comma another column name comma another column name, and whenever you're coming with from, ensure that you give a space. Otherwise from and the preceding column will be treated as single word and database would throw an error saying that from keyword is missing. Okay, so ensure that you have the spaces between that. Okay, the final column and the initial column. Okay then. So let's see tomorrow. Let's go with more learning. Okay. See you then.